Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Love of Business podcast at prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. My name is Maria Miko Faith, and I will be your host today. I am an entrepreneur and spiritualist, content specialist, and I am happy to introduce Tim Chedester, success strategist.
Mm-hmm.
Tim is a life and leadership coach, trainer, and speaker, and he helps individuals and business owners to transition. That seems like a really, really key word right now.
Big time.
From chasing success to living a life of purpose and building other leaders. That's a lot. Do you mind giving us a little overview of your business?
Sure, no, not a problem, Miko. It's good to be here, by the way. Thank you so much. Tim Chedester, success strategist, actually started out as something else different several years ago, and I came to a place where leadership became really important in my life, and it's coupled along with purpose. And purpose is very important to me because purpose was something that I wasn't able to find for a lot of years of my life. So what I do through my experience is I help people to understand their leadership of self mostly, and I help them to get to a place where they understand who they are, what they want, and I help them to transition from where they are based on their need or their ability or their want and desire to understand what their purpose is and help them to lead themselves with their purpose or their understanding of their purpose, and then take them into a new realm where they're able to help other people to basically do what I do, not necessarily as a life coach or a leadership coach, but in their business or with their family, and maybe even possibly with their friends, where they can help someone else to understand that purpose is important, that they are important, and then to help them to lead others, basically to kind of carry on the legacy of leadership through purpose.
Wow. That's so important. And something that I think has been overlooked a lot in the popular trend towards entrepreneurship is been all about, the things that are important, the documentation, even the business plan, the social media marketing, like all these things are important, but the foundation is essential to longevity in business.
Exactly. One of the things I learned during the time that I was involved with John Maxwell. I still am a John Maxwell coach and trainer and speaker. And one of the fundamentals that he talks about is that, and it's the same, he calls it the law of the lid. And what it is, you can, as a leader, you can never lead anyone that is more effective as a leader than you. All right. But in business, what also happens, and this goes into personal growth, is that you can never have your business be more successful than you are. Your personal success is directly related to your ability to succeed in business. And to me, at that time, it was a mind blower to me because I never thought of it. But the truth is, it makes a great deal of success. All you have to do is really look at people that are very successful, and you realize that when their business are successful, their business as well is also successful. And so there's just a correlation that you can't deny.
Right. And it changes the mindset from the business being something that you just pour out of yourself into to being an extension of you. Right?
Yes, exactly. That's really what it is you are the brand.
Mm-hmm.
You and I are the brand of our business. Mm-hmm. And that is just kind of an extension of knowledge or an understanding of what John Maxwell talks about when he talks about those things, about how they correlate, how they connect to each other. One can't happen without the other.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So how can you give us step us through a little bit of a process, say for someone who, maybe starting to feel that overwhelm, or how would someone find you and what would, how would we start?
Well, thanks for that, Miko. Usually what happens is most of the time people find me either through the internet or through some type of a networking event or whatnot. And basically what we do is I have a brief conversation with them, attempt to build some relationship in the beginning to where they can, there's some trust involved. And then we set up an appointment and we talk about what it is that they want. If they know what they want, are they clear what they want? Because oftentimes they're not. Usually through conversations, I'm getting hints as to what they might want. However, they're also going to tell me whether or not they're clear or not on what they want. And sometimes they're not clear at all. And I take them through a process, through questions, where I get them to understand what it is that they might want, or that they don't know what they want, but they want more. And that's basically how it starts. And then from there, we'll set up an appointment where we'll actually have a sit down for an hour and we'll talk about it, what it is that they want. And through questions, it's really more of a discovery session. We'll have an opportunity to learn about each other, decide if we want to work together, but more so, I want to make sure that I can give them some value, even if for some reason we're not a good fit. Or I want to give them some value by helping them to discover maybe what it is that they want.
Right.
If they want something different, and even bigger yet, why do they want it? Is it because they want it, or is it because somebody else wants it for them?
Right. Yeah.
Because that's a big deal. Because what will happen is at some point in time, if somebody else wants you to have it, there's going to be a conflict. Because there's something that's going to undermine, because something in your mind is going to stop you and say, hey, wait a second. I don't really know that I want that. I think I'm doing this because maybe my mom or my dad wanted it. Maybe it's to go back to school or to start a business or to be a doctor or a lawyer. Parents have big dreams for you. And you just decide at some point, wait a second, is this really mine or is it somebody else's? And in that moment, they have to make a decision. And sometimes they're not able to do that because what could happen in that process that we're talking about to get them from point A to point B, it could stop them to the point that they stop. They stop growing. They don't know what they want. They go into conflict because it's a big deal because we're talking about a person's purpose. What do they want to do for the rest of their lives? How do they want to be fulfilled? What do they want? And I can tell you from personal experience, I grew up in a situation where my parents, all they did was they just made money. I grew up in the 60s and making money was a big deal. And you went and you provided for your family. And that's what it was. And you were good and you were happy, you were content, but over time where, personal development became a big deal and people started to learn and understand that, hey, wait a second, I can really have what I want. Because we didn't really learn that at least me as a child, as a kid.
Wow.
So it becomes a big deal, and you want to move into something that you want to do and you start to learn that you want to be fulfilled, but you get kind of stuck, you kind of get dragged back into this other thing if it's not yours. And you have to you have to understand what it is, why you want it, and how can you get there. And that's what I help them to understand. And so through the discovery process, that's what we attempt to establish in that really only an hour, which is really not a lot when you're talking about those types
some very very
weighty
questions, to ponder and then and then to commit to working through to find the answers. Because I think sometimes in my own life there have been times where I wasn't ready to face what I wanted, or or I did exactly what you're talking about, incorporated other people's ideas and from their idea of me into something that I thought I could do. And it really takes, some courage to go, I don't think that I want to do that, but I don't know what I want to do, because everything, in life, the pace has been so fast. It's like, you got to rush, you got to be there early, and I think that that takes away from the nurturing side of the business, where the business is something that is you, and you're not running ahead of yourself, but you're actually more present.
That's a great point, Miko, because once I started my business, in fact, I went through a process. Maybe one day I can actually tell the story because it really takes too long to share it with you today, but it was really a life-altering experience that I had. I was in sheet metal. I was a union sheet metal worker, and I had experience over a period of about a week and a half where I knew in that moment that I was supposed to be doing coaching and starting a coaching business. It was because of that. And what you would talk about internally, understanding and knowing, taking that into my business. I'd done a lot of personal growth work, but when I got to my business, I didn't know anything about business. I had to read books and talk to people. SCORE was heavily a big, heavy influence in my life to help me to move into that, understanding about entities and this, that, and the other thing. But one of the big things to directly address your comment is I had to learn about business. And what happened was I found myself learning new things every day. I probably learned more in the first couple of years of my business than probably the previous 40 years of my life. Just because every day I was learning how to become more aware of what I was doing and how it was going to affect other people, how it was going to affect my business, because suddenly it was about me, but it wasn't about me. It was about how I was going to serve others. And in order to do that, I had to be the best person that I could be. And so my awareness went through the roof, and I had to I had to really look at it every day, all day long. I'd be sitting there on the phone talking to somebody, or I'd be looking at something, and the next thing you know, the light bulb goes on. In that moment, it's, hey, wait a second. Wow, I'm doing this and this isn't effective, or I'm doing this and this is really working, and you get these little wins, or you get these little punches that kind of jump out at you, and you got to make some adjustments. So to your point, that's exactly right. In business, you have to be willing to be looking at that. And every day in my business, I was learning something new every day, all day long. And so I couldn't wait to get up the next day.
That's awesome.
What am I going to learn today? Because I became so grateful with the messages of what I was learning. I was getting hungrier. And the more I was able to feed myself with this information, the hungrier I got.
Wow. Yeah. That's powerful. That's really powerful and encouraging too, because it does seem overwhelming at times when you're going to change something so fundamental. The lizard brain comes in and then also external forces come in because they don't want you to change necessarily, and there's it's like you're changing this whole dance and show, and it's encouraging to know that there's that joy in the journey, because it puts it beyond the success of being a six-figure business or having the most whatever. It makes it personal again, and then that just gives back.
Exactly. It's really interesting, and it goes back to, again, this is one of the things that goes back to my youth. My parents had a real big money issue. All right, I used to listen to my parents fight over money, and that always stuck with me. And consequently, as I grew older, I kind of rebelled against that thought, because it caused so much problems for my parents in their marriage that eventually it broke the marriage up. And I made, obviously, like everybody else, whatever experiences you have, you make decisions about things. And I decided that money was not a big deal. And not that it was bad, it just wasn't a big deal. And it can cause problems if you don't know how to deal with it. And so, but I'm also this guy that likes to help and be of service to other people. And so at times I get caught up in wanting to be of service on such a deep level that I forget that I still need to make a living, but I allow the service side of me, the side that appreciates service, to drive me, because what we do, or what I do in business, is I want to make sure that I'm of service. And that's probably my biggest driver of being in business. Is my business is something that is driven by my need and desire to be of service to other people.
That's beautiful, though, and to find an outlet where you can not only use that, but pass it on to other people is really powerful.
Sure.
And then you have that double check system of continuing to return to the personal as the foundation.
Well, that's where the purpose comes from. And that's one of the things that I work on with other people. Obviously, when I talk about this, it's because I finally figured out a way to understand what my purpose was. And as I move toward that, or closer toward that, I become more fulfilled and I have greater meaning, and I can be of greater service to other people. You know, and when my world is fulfilling, then I can spread it out to other people.
Yeah,
so that's what drives me. So
I love that. And so I see here too that you took some time to explore what you wanted to create, and then you spent the next 7 years learning and understanding how businesses and organizations operate. So you went from reading books and talking to people and not knowing anything about business to, in 2018, completing your master's degree in organizational leadership.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a lot of commitment.
It was, you know, there's always, obviously there's a side story to that when it came to commitment, because I remember when I started back to school and I went and looked at my transcripts. I had to get a copy of my transcripts from high school.
Uh-huh.
All right. And I took a look at my transcripts from high school and I finally saw them and I just went, oh my gosh. I was a slacker in high school. I had about a 2.4 or something average. I was a C student. I just got through and I just couldn't believe it. And so I just said to myself that, you know what, I'm going to work hard on this, you know? And, wow. And as I was moving through it, I suddenly realized as I started to kind of go, I said, hey, you know what, I'm going to make a commitment to myself to completely erase that, my younger self. And I worked really hard, you know, and I got to a point where I was arguing with instructors over my grades. I mean, I would call them out. I would call them on the phone. I would call the school. I filed a couple complaints. Hey, wait a second, man. I earned that grade. You know, I became this really almost obsessed with it, you know, and yeah. I'm really proud of what I did. You know, my grades are, I still think about it today, and my grades are, yeah. I mean, I think I only got in 8 years of school or 6 years of school because it was quick, but I want to say that I probably got a couple A minuses.
Wow. So you really turned that around.
I really did.
How did that feel to go through that process of?
I can remember when I finally got my degree, when my degree came in the mail, I sat down and I cried. I sat down and I cried because it was such a big deal to me. You know, I have an older brother, it's a half brother, and I always looked up to him, and he always was doing better than me. He always did better than me. And I could not tell you how good it felt to call him, because he only got his BA. He only has his bachelor's. Uh-huh. And I called him and I go, big brother, just want to let you know, I just got my master's degree. And he couldn't believe it because I never told him I was going back to school. And he couldn't believe it. So that was a big deal. But really, you know, the underlying point to all that, Miko, is that when you latch on to something that you love and you have purpose in your life, mm-hmm. there's nothing that's going to stop you except you.
Right.
You know, and that's one of the great things I learned from that experience, you know. And it has helped me to understand organizations and organizational leadership and just organizations in general on a much deeper level. So I can support, you know, businesses with, you know, different types of coaching and training and whatnot because of that experience, which is really why I did it. But it was all part of driving or being driven by my purpose.
Wow, that's incredible. And, you know, yeah. Gosh, so you offer a variety of coaching programs now and services. So you told us a little bit about your individual coaching. What does your group coaching look like?
I use a lot of Maxwell stuff, you know. I do like book study kind of, or like a book mastermind using a book as a backdrop.
Okay.
But I also do core values training. All right.
Nice.
And I also do a thing with personalities and motivations and behaviors. You know, I'm also certified to teach that through a company called Personal Strengths Publishing. Mm-hmm. You know, SDI Strength Deployment Inventory. It's a battery of assessments to support individuals and companies in creating better relationships through understanding themselves, their motivations and behaviors. Wow. And so I'm also certified to do that as well. So I can take that into a business as well. So, and I also share that with my individual clients too. It's one of the things we do in the beginning so they can better understand what their motivations are. So to help drive them to better understand why it is that they're doing what they're doing and how they can use their strengths to get to where it is as they say they want to go. So that's kind of how that works.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
And so you have coaching and then you have training. Is that like a longer period of time where?
It can be. It can be. It's really determined by, what they want, what the company wants. Do they want to work within a department? Is it a smaller business where you just have a group of maybe 20 people? What is it you want to achieve? What is it that you want? And we work from there, so it's very much customized.
Wow. And so powerful too. And I think, it's you've brought the service at such a great time when people have to examine so many things with all the changes that are happening. Mm-hmm. Do you have anything to share with us, on besides what you shared about the gift of learning and that excitement? Do you have, which translates to love of business? Do you have any other tips, on how to bring love into the business or even into the journey of the transition to a new business?
Well, as far as the journey goes to the transition in the business, I think you just want to stay focused on what it is that you want and understanding why you're in business. I know that there are people out there that run their businesses for different reasons, and many of them are not running their business based on purpose. They're running it for a result. Making money is actually a result and not a purpose.
Wow.
I want to pay the bills. Some people say, "Oh, why are you in business?" I want to pay the bills. I want to make a lot of money. Well, that's a result.
Right.
That's not really your purpose. Why do you do what you do? I can guarantee that if you can learn that and understand that, it'll shift you. It'll shift your business. And I don't know how much time we have left. Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
I learned an example, if I may.
Please.
And it has to do with that, the value and the power of purpose. Many of us years ago, over the years in the Olympics, Summer Olympics or Winter Olympics, whichever, there's always that one person that somehow overcame some type of adversity. Like you could think back. I want to say it was the LA Games maybe, where there was a gal that she was running a marathon,
mm-hmm.
and she was the last one. Everybody else was done.
Uh-huh.
Everybody else was finished.
Uh-huh.
And she comes into the stadium. I'll see if I can get through this because every time I tell the story, I get emotional about it because of the power of it. And so the girl walks in, and I know people probably remember it. So this girl, and she's walking, her arm she's dehydrated, she's dizzy, and she can't make it. She's not going to make it, And suddenly you start to hear noise. And then pretty soon the crowd gets louder, and the crowd gets louder, and the crowd gets louder. And in that moment, you get very clearly what this woman's purpose was. It was to finish the race so that she could justify everything that she had done for her love of what she does. And people here, 100,000 people rooting for her, and how many millions of people on TV that are going, come on. So the idea behind that is in that moment, when people understand that you have a purpose
mm-hmm.
and why you do what you do, business becomes easier. Why? Because people are willing to rally around your dream and your vision and your purpose. And that's how it works.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. And that's what I could say to somebody that's running a business. And it's not because they're the wrong reasons. It's that they just might be focused more on results than they are about their purpose. Because I can tell you, if you run your business from purpose, you'll be happier, you'll be more grateful, you have more meaning in your life, and you will attract people that you can serve.
Yes.
Which is why we're here.
Great things.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Excuse me. I think that there's so much in that interview that so many gems that I'm really excited to see the rest of your journey and how that goes. And I guess that's that's almost a wrap for today.
Okay.
Is there anything you want to leave us with, including the best way to find you?
Well, the first thing I want to say is don't stop dreaming, and don't stop trying. You can reach me at timchedester.com, or you can reach me at lifesuccesscoachoflasvegas.com.
Wonderful.
And that's how you can reach me.
Thank you so much for your time, and good luck with everything.
Appreciate it, Miko. Thanks for having me on. It was great.
It's a pleasure.
All right.